In the year 731, an English monk finished writing the history of his own people. Somewhere in it he listed the nations across the sea who still spoke the same language the English spoke. He put one name at the front of that list, and it was not the Saxons. It was the Frisians. 13 centuries later, around 440,000 people still speak that language on one stretch of North Sea coast. It is the closest living relative English has, not a dialect of English, not a branch of Dutch, a separate language that shares a parent with ours. And in 1951 it came within a single afternoon of being finished off for good. Start with 4 words, because they are the most famous 4 words the language has. Butter, bread, green cheese. Nothing in this video is going to be pronounced for you. Every word is on screen, so you can judge the resemblance with your own eyes. Butter, the Frisian spelling sits 1 letter away from the English one. The Dutch and the German both go somewhere else. Bread, same pattern. The Frisian word keeps the opening of the English one and drops the ending. Green, same pattern again. And cheese, that last one gives the whole thing away for a reason we will come back to. 4 for 4. The sentence carries on, whoever cannot say that is no true Frisian. The story attached to it involves a farmer remembered as Big Pier. Frisian tradition has him turning rebel in the 1500s, after soldiers burned his farm. The legend says he used that sentence as a password: say it correctly and you lived, say it wrong and you were Dutch or German, and you did not. Treat that as folklore. The sentence is genuinely old. The password story around it is not written down at the time. The words themselves, though, are doing something real, and that part is not folklore at all. English and Frisian went through a set of sound changes that Dutch and German never did. Linguists group the two together as anglo-frisian, inside a larger family called Ingvaenwic in the North Sea Germanic languages. 3 of those changes do most of the work, and you can check every one of them yourself. The first change is a missing letter. Old Germanic had an N sitting in front of certain consonants. In this group it dropped out, and the vowel in front of it stretched to fill the gap. Look at where that N survives. German keeps it in all 4 of these words. Dutch keeps it in all 4. English lost it in all 4, us goose 5 tooth. And Frisian lost it in exactly the same 4 places. The second change is what happened to the letter K. In front of certain vowels a hard K softened into a chi sound. There are 2 obvious test words. German keeps the hard K at the front of both, so does Dutch. English softened both of them, so did Frisian. Dutch sits geographically right in between the 2 and did neither. The third change is a vowel that moved forward in the mouth, from an A towards an E. 1 word, 4 languages. 2 of them moved the vowel and 2 of them left it alone. Same original word, same shift, in English and Frisian and nowhere else on that map. Stack the 3 changes together and you start getting pairs that look like typos of each other. Day, rain, key, sleep, dream, sweet, English on the left. The same 6 words in Frisian on the right. There is an old rhyme about it, and the joke is that bread, butter, and green cheese counts as good English and good Frisian at the same time. So how did 2 languages on opposite sides of a sea end up this close? The sea was never the barrier we picture. For most of the story it was the road. From the Frisian coast to the English coast is a little over 250 miles of open water, in an early medieval boat that is days, not weeks. In the 5th and 6th centuries, groups from the continent crossed into Britain, and their language replaced the one already there. The list everybody learns at school is Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. But a Byzantine historian writing in the 6th century gives a different list. He describes Britain as held by 3 peoples: the Angles, the Britons, and the Frisians. Whatever he got wrong about an island he had never seen, he had heard of Frisians there, and he ranked them alongside the Angles. 2 centuries after that, the monk from the opening of this video is still linking the 2. He names the peoples on the continent who still spoke the same language as the English, and the Frisians are the first name on that list. That is not a claim about bloodline. It is a claim about being understood from a man in a position to know. And for centuries after him, the North Sea kept the 2 ends connected. Frisian traders ran the coastal routes between England, the Rhine, and Scandinavia, and for a while they ran most of them. Their great river port covered roughly 3 square kilometers, which made it one of the largest trading settlements in northwest Europe. Frisian cloth was sold in England and in Scandinavia, and the coins and brooches turned up right along the coast. Then the connection was cut, and it was cut at both ends at once. In England, the Norman conquest of 1066 poured French vocabulary into the language and never stopped. On the Frisian side, the sea simply took the land. On the 14th of December 1287, a storm surge broke the coast open. Estimates of the dead run from 50,000 to 80,000. It was one of a run of floods across the 13th and 14th centuries that drowned whole districts. An inland sea opened up and widened, villages went under, Frisian territory shrank back towards the province it still holds today. Two languages that had spent centuries drifting side by side stopped touching each other. English became a Germanic language wearing a French wardrobe. Frisian stayed exactly where it was and got smaller. By the 16th century it had lost its written life almost completely. The oldest texts survive mostly as law, legal codes, copied into manuscripts from about 1200 onwards. Old English is being written down from the 7th century, that is a 500-year head start, and the gap costs us most of what the older language looked like. Then the province came fully under Dutch administration and Dutch took the courts, the church and the schools. Frisian carried on at kitchen tables and in cowsheds and stopped being written at all. That is the ordinary way a language dies. Nobody bans it. It is simply made useless in every room where decisions get made. It very nearly finished the job, and then in 1951 it went the other way, over something small. A vet answered a magistrate's questions in Frisian. The magistrate would not accept it. A newspaper editor wrote a piece attacking the magistrate for that, and found himself prosecuted for insulting the court. On the 16th of November 1951, a crowd gathered outside the courthouse in the provincial capital. Police turned fire hoses and batons on them. Frisians have called that day Baton Friday ever since. It is the closest thing modern Dutch history has to a language riot, and it worked. 5 years later a law let Frisian into the courtroom. By 1980 it was a compulsory subject in the province's primary schools, and in 2014 an act of parliament confirmed it as the second official language of the Netherlands. One province, one afternoon, one law, that is how narrow the margin actually was. One more thing, because people say Frisian as though it were a single language. It is three of them, and speakers of one cannot simply understand the others. Here is the whole surviving family by size. West Frisian is the one in the Netherlands, around 440,000 speakers, roughly 2/3 of the province's population. It has its own literature, its own broadcaster, and its own place in the schools. That is the healthy one, and UNESCO still lists it as vulnerable. North Frisian is spoken in Germany, in Schleswig-Holstein, and on the islands off its coast. Fewer than 10,000 speakers, split into dialects so far apart that some of them genuinely cannot understand each other. And then there is Saterland Frisian. It survives in 3 villages in Lower Saxony on what used to be raised bog, cut off by wet ground on every side. That isolation is the entire reason it is still here. Somewhere between 1 and 2,500 people speak it. It is the last living piece of East Frisian. Everything else on that branch is already gone. UNESCO classes North Frisian as severely endangered, and Saterland Frisian is definitely endangered. So the closest living relative English has is not one comfortable language quietly getting on with things. It is one language holding its ground, and 2 more running out of speakers. Everything you have seen here has been spelling, none of it has been sound, and sound is where the resemblance actually lives. If you want to hear it rather than read it, there is a free place to start. It is called learnfrisian.com. Free lessons in West Frisian, recorded by native speakers, run out of the province itself. Full disclosure, we run it, so take the recommendation with that in mind. The lessons are free. There is a paid video course as well, and you do not need it to get started. There are lessons, a dictionary, and a handful of games. The audio is the part that matters here, because this language on paper and this language out loud are 2 very different experiences. Start with the 4 words you have already read. If you can say it, the old joke is that you are Frisian. If you cannot, you are in extremely good company. Either way, you have just met the closest thing to English that is not English. There is a whole channel of these, and the next one is already in the works.